Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest is Benjamin Baldi. He's the Senior Vice President of Global Public Sector for Tricentis. Ben, good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And in DoD, which we're focusing on, there's a lot of modernization efforts that continue despite what's going on, maybe surrounding them. But cloud, data analytics, artificial intelligence, all these things are coming into the modernization picture. Your specialty is automated testing. And how does that fit into support of these modernization efforts and getting better results from all of this?
Yeah, we see quite a bit of it, and honestly, that's the reason that a lot of the agencies and organizations come and use Tricentis. Really, three main reasons that someone would come to use Tricentis is they're manually testing today, they have used legacy testing tools in the past, or their hair is on fire and they have something that needs to be pushed out as a mission critical application, and we come in and automate that testing. So when you talk about cybersecurity, you talk about AI, you talk about compliancy that the DoD needs to have when they're doing any type of testing across the infrastructure, we can help with that piece of it. So a lot of agencies are coming to us looking for their test plans and how they're going to be rolling out these new modern applications that maybe they haven't used in the past, and still also then supporting the legacy tools that they have that they need to keep on as they go through these modernization efforts.
Well, how does automated testing live side by side with manual testing? Because I think
it does. It definitely does. Yeah. No, we definitely see that. I think where we're seeing the most automation get adopted inside of these agencies is when they have these large tools like an SAP, an Oracle, a Salesforce, a ServiceNow, that they need to do really, testing from day one. And meaning that when they're going to implement a new version of these tools or a new product itself, they need to start that automated testing from the day that they put it inside of any type of environment. So we're working really closely with those agencies to get those plans in place on how they're going to do it. While they still have manual testing for things inside of organizations and these agencies, they are heavily investing inside of automation, manpower-wise, and just keeping up with it. We'll see agencies that adopt automated testing go from what took them weeks down to days to be able to automate.
And when you mentioned Salesforce, SAP, and some of those big enterprise types of applications or software as a service, that's different from when you are commissioning or making your own coding software.
Correct.
Custom software.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to have automated testing of these commercial products?
Yeah, that's correct. And we actually, what's really neat about Tricentis is it really doesn't matter what you have inside of your environment, we can test it. So as long as we can pull in that data and be able to connect to it, we're able to help with automation of these entire environment. So whether it is that large legacy tool that the customer may be using, or any of the new modernization tools, and then down to the custom applications. So you think of mission critical custom applications that may be in deployment cycles for any branch of the military. We can help and support that throughout the entire life cycle.
And I guess there's always custom code even with these commercial products. Correct. To make it adapt to the mission at hand.
Yeah, and always being ready to test, right? They don't have to wait. They don't have to wait for something to be tested as a manual tester. They now can pull that into Tricentis, and we're able to push out the automated test cycles. So the time frame of actually being compliant with the DoD standards has shrunk now because of the use of automated testing as well.
And maybe discuss how you have a vendor neutral approach, because we just named a lot of companies.
Yeah, that's exactly
and
right.
A lot of languages, frankly. So there's a lot of kind of a garden of different codes and coding types. And that must be able to, automating that must be a good way to help streamline that and keep things moving fast.
Yeah, it really does help an extensive amount of things when you look at a full IT infrastructure, but then also even the back end component of it as well. Whether it's down to the procurement cycle of these agencies, not having to have to do multiple procurements to test a Salesforce or a SAP or an Oracle. You now are doing one procurement. So that is a huge plus for these agencies, especially as their budgets are shrinking and expecting to do more from a modernization effort. But then also from a compliancy standpoint, having one tool that they know how the tests are deployed, can have a central location for these tested infrastructure, and be able to do it real time.
And what to test for, that
Correct.
comes from the people that have been doing the manual testing.
Correct. Yeah. And it's interesting because now with the automation and these different tools comes different challenges for an entire agency, right? Whether it is a HR tool that's being deployed or a CRM, HRM inside of these environments, it needs to work hand in hand.
And what do you still do manually when there's a comprehensive automated test program running? Do you just take certain functions and pull them out almost like sampling?
Yeah, there is. We actually have a tool that will help with that as well. So that can help with the test management of how you're going to work.
Because you don't want to manually test what's being automatically tested.
Correct. Yeah, and we'll see agencies that are, we talked about earlier in that beginning phases of maybe manual testing was what they were doing previously. They still will do that coincide until they are fully on board with the automation piece. But when you talk about organizations that have used test automations in the past, or they have an issue with their hair on fire and they need to do this quickly, they adopt much faster from a test automation standpoint.
Something caught my eye with Tricentis, and that is the idea of data integrity testing, especially in the AI era where data is everything for artificial intelligence. Talk about that function, what that means.
Yeah, no, and it's a very interesting one. And what we're seeing today is a lot of agencies, as they adopt a AI approach to the business, that data needs to be clean before it goes into an AI tool, right? You can't just say, hey, this data is going in, what's the answer, right? So we have a tool, it's called Data Integrity, that not only will test the data inside of your agency, but we'll also make sure that the data coincides and is clean going into the AI tool to give you a more accurate depiction of the event.
Right, so this is testing data for what kinds of things can go wrong with it.
Yeah, well, and it can be a whole litany of things, right? You look at, from a DoD perspective, it could be that a decimal place was moved in this over here, but it does not matching on this side. That could be monumental from maybe an IT spend, or even something more critical from a mission critical event that's happening that needs to be on top of.
Right, so if the AI tool thinks something is millions,
Correct.
but it's really thousands
That is
or
correct.
billions, then you have a data
Changes
integrity
the game
problem.
completely. Exactly.
All right, and well, give us some examples. Where
Yeah.
has this worked well in the DoD environment?
Yeah, so from a DoD perspective, we've seen a handful of agencies move to Tricentis. I did touch upon before of one of the things that we see is that what took them weeks is now going down to days. So really being able to focus on their mission at hand and not have to worry about manually testing. Everything has been obviously phenomenal for these agencies. But we're seeing agencies that haven't been able to do specific things inside of their environments now are able to go down to, one was able to deploy to 63 different locations globally, right? Where they weren't able to keep up with this modernization effort, keeping with their legacy tools, and to be able to deploy in a much faster time frame. They're now taking years off of programs and expectations that they thought were going to occur by moving to Tricentis.
And when the software does deploy, you're much more assured that you're going to get what you want.
That's correct, yeah. And they then can use that same test cases for the rest of their environment as well.
All right, well, you made a good case for automated testing. Thanks for being with us.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Benjamin Baldi is the Senior Vice President of Global Public Sector for Tricentis. I'm Federal Drive host Tom Temm, and you're watching Federal News Network. Let's go back to the studio now for more on the DoD Modernization Exchange.